no doubt. And then stairs and everything. I was wondering if they gave them away free gifts or something. Look at everybody that's here. Food. All right. Well, look, obviously, just recapping yesterday, disappointed with the results of the game. But I would say, like I said yesterday, I thought that, I thought the team yesterday played hard for each other. I thought they wanted to win. I thought they fought, really as hard as they could. I think this team cares. I think they care for each other. They work hard. I think it's genuine. I think that's a big thing, is that it's definitely a genuine care, that they want to see each other succeed. They want to try to win. They want to do everything they can to do to better each other. I think you could see that in the game. The excitement, you watch Danny throw a touchdown pass to Blau, and you watch the excitement that creates. I would say when they missed the field goal, our field goal block unit is something that we've really tried to work on every single week and put a lot of pride into. And when they missed that, I think you definitely see Austin Bryant, Skipper, guys that, aren't normally on that unit that are trying to do the best they can. You see the genuine care in their reaction from that standpoint. Even just there's things that you guys don't see, like the reaction of the team in squad when I announced that, Pittman's going to be active for the game and up for the roster, and the happiness that they have for each other, to see a guy that's just worked really hard through the course of the season have that chance, have that opportunity. So I think that's the great part about this team. That's what's been the great part about this team, something that we can build on and continue to grow. The game itself was really tale of two halves. Obviously tried to start fast and, get out to a big lead, which we know we're going to need to do against Green Bay. But just couldn't be consistent enough all the way through the game to win in the end. I thought they fought through. There was some adversity during the game that we had to overcome, and they tried to fight through it the best they could, but it just wasn't enough. And in the end, I think really that's the way the season's been all year. It's kind of been a microcosm of what the season's been. They try and they work as hard as they can, but in the end, just hasn't been enough. So, I think at its core, I think I like what this team is at its core, the foundation that it's set. But we obviously know we got a lot of work to do going forward. I'd say as far as just the overall season, 2019, I'd say we're all disappointed. It's definitely not how we wanted it to go. I would say that, we have high expectations. Those will never change. We'll always keep high expectations. I think this team knows that and learned through the course of this year that they can compete with the best of what the NFL has to offer every single week. They'll show up and they can compete. I think the thing that we need to improve on, and the thing that we need to get done, is we got to find a way to win. We got to find a way to win some of those games against the better teams, against the other teams, and just be consistent with that as we go forward. It's hard to win any game in this league. That's the truth. There's a fine line between winning and losing. I think, unfortunately, we saw a lot of those fine lines this year. But, the teams that win, they do it with consistency. They do it with improving as the season goes on. They do it with smart football. And, they have that edge in certain situations where they find a way to win, no matter what. I'd say the teams that don't win in this league don't have that consistency. And they beat themselves. And certain situations where, just things come up where they can't, find a way to win. And I think that's really what our season was. I think that's what our season, just kind of each game has been the same from that aspect of it. And that's why the season looked that way. And it's been that inconsistency between good football and bad football. We've seen definitely good football on the field, but the bad football through the course of each game outweighed it. And I think that, as we go back through and evaluate everything from the season, we'll look for, ways to improve in all those areas. I think, certainly there's some areas that we already know that we got to go back and do a better job of improving on. Things that affect the game immediately, like turnovers, making sure that we take care of the ball in all aspects of it and make sure we turn the ball over when we have that opportunity to do that. Eliminating the penalties, those are things that, got us throughout the course of the season. I think, playing through adversity and being able to finish with regardless, irregardless of the situation in all three phases of just going out and playing strong all the way through the game for 60 minutes. I definitely think there's details that, we got to clean up, overall, some things that we put a point of emphasis on week by week. And, we may get them fixed for a couple weeks, but they show back up a couple weeks later, and we can't have that. And those are things that once we improve, once we fix them, they have to stay fixed in order to continually get better. And I'd say one of the things, that this team is, we had a lot of young guys playing for us at certain points that, we got to learn and get better at, is that, don't make any one moment bigger than what it is. And we got to a point where it was definitely some games and some plays and some situations where, we can't press. We just got to play that play. We got to stay within that moment, not make it bigger than what it is, and just execute. Execute that one play, and then get to the next play and execute that next play. And that's something that comes with experience, comes with confidence, and those are things that we need to build upon from that standpoint. So. We got to find ways to get everybody on the field, and we got to keep them on the field. And, when that doesn't happen, it's why it's so important for us to continue to grow and develop the younger players or the new players on our team. So when those situations come up, which they will, we got to step in and have that next person up ready to go. But certainly, having that consistency on the field week in, week out helps from that standpoint. So I think that, we tried to lay a foundation this year, tried to build a culture that we can improve upon. Think that, I'm excited from the standpoint of 2020 of being able to continue kind of what we started. And I think that we all understand we have a lot of work to do next year. But the one thing I do know is that every team starts from scratch. So for us, that time has come where we got to start over, and we're going to get back to work, and we're going to try to do everything we can to improve from that standpoint. So for us, we know change happens every year in the NFL. There's 5 new teams in the playoffs this year, so everybody will start over from that aspect of it, but we're going to start right now. So my commitment is to this organization, to the fans, to the football team, is to do everything we can do, to evaluate all aspects of our organization, of our process, of what we do in the next upcoming months here, and try to make them better for next year. Try to, improve all of those things that we think will give us a slight edge here or there, or that 1% improvement across the board that'll help us grow collectively as a team. I think, it would always start with me. I always make sure I evaluate what I do, how I, work, how I evaluate, how I run the team, the meetings, schedules, all of those things. I'll go back and look at all those. But I know as a team, in order to improve, it's got to start with me. I got to get better, which I will. I'll make whatever decisions we have to make based on what's best for the team. I'll never accept losing. I'll never accept complacency. We'll always find ways to get better. I can promise you I will work tirelessly to get our team to the point where we're improving, where we're getting better. I appreciate the Ford family. I appreciate the fans. I'm committed to this team. I'm committed to continue to build, improve, and grow the vision of this team for next year. And, 2019, there's no excuses. We all know we need to get better. We need to execute better. Like I said, it's going to start with me. I promise you that. But in 2020, we'll keep our standards high. That'll never be compromised. And really, in the NFL, we all know there's only one team happy at the end of the year. Everybody else, we got to go back to work, and we got to get better. And we got to go back to work, and we got to get better. That's going to start right away. So I think that's kind of where we are right now. Questions? Yeah, go ahead.
As you said, obviously there was definitely positives, but mostly disappointed for you. What's the process? I mean, obviously the regular season's over. You guys are looking towards next year. What's your process to go in there and look at the things that were bad, that didn't work, and correct those and make them work?
Yeah, the process for us is pretty consistent from a standpoint of there's different areas of things that we do that we'll go back and we'll collect all the information from, whether it's the coaching staff, the support staff, players. We kind of get feedback loops on everything that we do, whether it's scheduling, practice meetings, game plan, just the order of how we handle things through the course of the week, and make sure we take all the feedback that we get, put it together, and see where there's areas where we can easily improve, see where there's areas where we're going to have to go outside and try to find out different ways or better ways or new ways to look at things to try to get those, improvements in place also. So we'll do that, through the next several weeks and then into February, as we're also kind of trying to build towards everything else that we have to do in the off season. But for us, that'll be priority number one, is just that whole self-scout evaluation feedback loop. We got to get going on that. Go ahead, Mike.
You've got a lot of detailed analysis and all that to do, but when you look at like the last 5 games, you had six sacks. How important was it to add a dynamic pass rusher playmaker to your defense who can get you off the field, make plays individually?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously we're going to try to add as many players as we can that can impact the game in all of those situations, whether, it's a single stat like sacks or it's completions, it's catches, it's pass breakups, it's interceptions. I think anybody that can help us in that manner or players that can develop to help us in that way are certainly impactful, and we want to try to get as many of those types of players on our team as possible. I think that's always important, no matter what state you're in.
We don't get a chance to talk to you about the big picture sometimes. We did see the foundation, we did see the toughness and the effort and the bond that you speak of, these guys playing for each other. But with the consistent theme with the losses, with the close games and not being able to hold on to leads, does that boil down to talent or coaching? Is there a balance there of what's missing in this formula that's preventing you from finishing these games?
I would say, for me, as we go back and look at all of it, what you don't want to do is, and we try to evaluate that week by week and see what we're missing from one week to the next. And certainly there's a lot of moving parts that had taken place this past season to evaluate from there. But, when we can look at it from a holistic point or kind of put all of those different situations that occur in the game together, see if there's common themes, see if there's something from a standpoint of schematics, personnel, all of that stuff, and evaluate it from there. We'll try to take a look at it from a fresh point of view and see what we come up with. But, I think, again, it's there can be a lot of different factors, or, I would say that it hasn't been just one glaring same thing over and over. Otherwise, that would have been pretty evident, from that standpoint, just through the season itself. But, for us, I want to take just a good, fresh look at all that to see what is it that we have to do to, to break through that situation where we can't finish those type of games.
Right now, what is it that you think got you here? Why do you think you guys are here right now?
I don't know if I can really answer that in a good way right now without really taking a good evaluation of all of it.
Did you make staff changes?
Again, right now today's a real important day for me, for the team, to make sure that, as a team we understand where we are, where we need to go going forward. And, we'll go back and evaluate everything just like we always do every year, from that standpoint, tomorrow and through the course of the week. And we'll see whatever, whatever we think is good or not good or changes that we need to make. We'll evaluate that as we go through the process. But certainly we'll always do what's best for the team.
Do you plan to have a defensive coordinator next year, or will you handle play calling? I mean, is that position itself very how important is that position to you to have somebody in that role to make sure you can spend your time?
I mean, I think, I don't know. That's a pretty general question. I mean, I think, again, we'll evaluate everything as we go forward.
You talked about the consistencies from game to game being putting you guys in a situation to lose. The defense has given up almost historic franchise yards this year. The points, obviously, in the end of the games. Is that something schematically? Is that execution, a balance of both in that particular situation? Because that was a consistent theme I feel like fans saw. Defense wasn't there.
Yeah, I mean, I think, what I want to make sure I do is go back and look at the complementary football game and see why we're in some of those situations. I think there's a lot of things that go into those. I mean, certainly from just you want to look at one phase, that's not good enough from that aspect of it. Yardage is not the one that I really look at more so than points. I think that's one that's most important from those situations. And obviously, critical drives. Let's look at those and see what those look like. What's happening in those situations where we got to, we call them gotta have it's, where we got to make a play and we got to be in those situations where we're going to have to come up with a stop or, keep them out of field goal range or, not let them score a touchdown. Those are all areas that, defensively you can look at specifically and say, all right, how do we improve this?
Have they informed you yet about you going to be coaching the Senior Bowl?
No. Nope.
Matt, you said you're not going to announce any staff changes today, but there's expectation from up top that you are going to be making staff changes. When usually a coach has autonomy over his coaching staff. When it sounds like there's going to be some oversight in this process, how is that going to work with shaping your staff with ownership or Bob in terms of you not having full control?
Make sure I get the question right. I think really in general, changes are part of the NFL every year, whether it's staff or players or whatever it is. So I think that's all part of the evaluation process that we go through. I think we're still dealing with the the immediate end of the season, yesterday. So from that standpoint, we'd like to make sure that we're, doing everything not based on an emotional standpoint, but a very well thought out process, no matter what it is in those areas. And certainly with all changes, that we make, whether it's player, coaching, support staff, whatever it is from that standpoint throughout the organization, we do try to do that, especially Bob and I will try to do that from a collaborative sort of, point of view. We're always going to look at it and try to evaluate it and work together from that standpoint.
One of those things, when you did take the job, you were kind of handcuffed in your timing. It prevented you maybe from formulating the staff that you did want. How quickly do you have to move on those decisions just to make sure you have the opportunity to fill those positions with the best possible candidates?
Yeah. I think that's, the staff conversation is always an interesting one just from a theoretical conversation of we understand roster, we understand how long it takes to change roster and develop roster. I feel the same way about the staff. Any aspect of the staff. I think there's certainly, whether it's coaching or support staff or different areas or departments of the organization that support the players, we're always going to want the best for the players at all times, and obviously always be in a situation where if we can try to improve that after we analyze it, we're going to try to improve it, certainly from that aspect of it. There is some timing here to the league and when all of that process takes place, even though there might be change currently. There is, some procedural stuff that goes on through the league so that there is kind of a more of a level playing field with some of those situations too. So we'll follow all those processes. Hang on one second.
To what extent do you feel like you may be further away than you thought you were with the talent and the depth on this roster?
I don't know. That's a good question right there as far as that. I don't know if you can put any timeline as far as how far or how close or whatever it is. I mean, I just think from us, we obviously know we got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of building to do, and we certainly know we're going to need to try to improve our team because it's not good enough right now from where it's at. That would be all aspects of it. So that'll be part of the process here in the next couple months to really dive into that and see how can we upgrade and where can we upgrade in all avenues to get us to be more competitive. So that'll be part of the process here in the next couple months.
To follow up, but with an edict for competing for a playoff position next year, is there? Obviously there's always urgency, but does it create more urgency to make sure that you get those things fixed right away?
I don't think the standard's changed. I think the standard for every team in the NFL is the same, and we're no different, and we're going to keep to a high standard, and we're going to try to improve. Absolutely. Yep.
Just historically, how do teams make the leap from non-playoff contender to playoffs, or worst to first, that sort of thing?
Yeah.
That maybe you can do this offseason. I guess need to do this offseason.
Yeah, there traditionally is, those teams, and like I said, I think there's 5 new teams in the playoffs this year. I think it was 8 last year, or whatever it was. It just those numbers change, and you look at those teams that have had that growth, and maybe it is the situation where it's a couple years into the development of whatever that team or that organization is going to be, and they've had an opportunity to kind of develop and work from there. I think each organization is different, so you can look into some of it and look at roster, look at coaching, look at schedule, kind of all of that stuff and see what affected them. But certainly for us, we'll just try to analyze what's best for us, going forward to help us improve for next year.
So far scenarios, Coach, that played out this year. Did you detect any toll that has started to take on this team? And what was your final message?
Yeah. I think that's a great question too, because I think, the one thing for me is that as a head coach, I definitely was conscious of some of those games where really close and not able to kind of close them out, and how does that affect the emotional and physical development of the team. Can it derail the team? I was worried about some of those situations. But the one thing about the team that I will say from this year is that every Monday they came in with that same sort of attitude and energy that, okay, hey, it's a new week, it's a new opportunity, and we're going to try to make the most of it. And I tend to sit there and wait for it to turn and wait when it's not going to be that way. But honestly, I think even, just yesterday is a great example of what this team really was about. It was not going to worry about who was playing. It wasn't going to worry about who they were playing. They were just going to try to do everything they could to go out and compete for each other. So from that standpoint, I think the team showed me a lot. I think they showed me that how much they did care and how much they wanted to try to do right and how much they wanted to improve. They never gave up. They never quit. And they worked really hard all through the course of the week to do everything they could no matter who played. So I think that's something that's a strong point for us that we need to make sure that, we build upon. It was definitely something I talked to the team about, today, and made sure that they understood how important that is, that mindset is. Also pointed out the things that we, need to do to get better and, that we're going to have to start over. So as tired as everybody is, as hard as, everyone's worked, and, sitting in those chairs today after 16 games, we got to work harder because, we still want to be playing. So there's definitely some guys in there that got some assignments to do here for the next couple months. So when they come back, but a lot of it is, they're going to need rest. A lot of the guys out there have worked really hard, so they need to get away from it for a little while, but not too long, because the off season will be here before we know it, and we'll be back at work, which is what we're all looking forward to doing. So.
Do you feel like your the injuries obviously had an impact throughout the year, but just sort of wondering, just talk about the evaluation process, whether it's not getting that long of a look at Deshaun Hand or TJ not finishing out the year. How much more difficult does that make that for some of the young foundational pieces?
Yeah. I think it's absolutely part of it, no different than Carry On last year and then just, Carry On showing us what he could do when he came back, but really then even the second part of it when he came back again and his determination to get better. So I think for young players, when they're not out there, it does make it difficult for us to try to really figure out, what can we do, where are they at? But we do understand that some of that stuff is just, circumstance of the situations, and we try to just continually, grow and develop. But certainly from a holistic view of the team, we'll look at all of those scenarios and decide to make sure that we have enough depth across the board to compete in those situations with those guys. Yep. All right, there was one more, Mike.
Kind of following that a little bit, do you feel like you had enough depth to be competitive once your starters went down this year? Because you look at Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh had similar injury situations to you all, and they were still winning games, and it didn't happen here.
I can't really comment on Pittsburgh.
Yeah. In general, do you feel like you had enough?
I think in general for us, we have to make sure that we develop young players that we have on our roster that can go in and compete at a high level and help us win. So we know that's going to be part of the process going forward. And we'll always have a mix of young players with veteran players with new players, and in all those avenues. We do have to do the best we can to make sure we have enough depth in all of those positions, so that when injuries occur, those guys can step in and go perform. We always try to figure out if we can predict injuries. That's a great industry. If anybody can get that done for me, that'd be awesome. But sometimes it happens in a situation where you might lose a couple guys in one position, and it becomes really difficult. That definitely happens, and I don't think any other team would be any different from that aspect of it. But I think the younger players, the guys that we need to develop and grow, we'll get another great opportunity to do that with the ones that are here, the ones that have been here for a couple years now, or even the ones we picked up last year, and continue to push those guys. And looking forward to having those guys come back and be better. That's certainly going to be part of it as we push forward and get ready for the off-season program. So, okay.
Thanks, Matt.
All right. Yep.